And Rick has shared several times that when you donate $1,000 to the Rotary Foundation, you're in actuality saving 4 lives.
I got that from a dear friend of mine. One of the real benefits of Rotary is that the people you meet who influence you over the years, and I've had so many of them, starting with that old man in Rome and the man who invited me to join Rotary. But I was sitting in the back of a taxi in Evanston, Illinois, at Rotary World Headquarters, with my friend Mike Pedrick from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Mike was a powerful man, 6'4", I don't know, 300 pounds. Made a lot of money in oil in Oklahoma and dog food. 2 disparate industries, and he was successful in both. And he was a mentor of mine and a great friend. I stayed in his home in Tulsa many times over the years. And we were talking about the Rotary Foundation. And Mike Pedrick, who in his 30s was a Paul Harris Fellow and a director of Rotary International, said to me, you know, Rick, every time we get somebody to become a Paul Harris Fellow, we save 4 lives. We've shown how that happens. And I don't remember how he went on to explain it, but I've never forgotten the statistic. I've always thought it saves 5. It saves the Rotarian as well, because they become more committed to what it is. And when you separate a little of your money, one of my favorite experiences is a past district governor friend of mine who's since passed away down in Orange County. And he asked me to come down and speak at his club at a Thursday noon. So I had to miss our own club meeting, of course. And I flew down to John Wayne Airport, and he picked me up in his big black car. And I could tell that he wasn't his usual self. Well, my wife and I had a somber experience this morning, Rick, with our daughter and her new husband. We went to the children's wing of the county hospital, and we brought home our very first grandchild. And I congratulated him, and I said, well, that's wonderful. Well, it was, because she was born 10 days ago, he said, on a Sunday. And the doctors told us that she probably wouldn't live. We couldn't see her for a week. And he said, my daughter cried the whole week, the child's mother. My wife cried, the child's grandmother. The young husband had no idea how to console his wife. And last Sunday, 1 week after the birth, and 3 or 4 days before I got there, the doctor called and said, you can come for just a few seconds today. We think we've elevated her to 50-50. You know, he said, Rick, when you go to a children's wing of a county hospital to see a sick child, and it's your own child, it's not much fun. You know that. So they took us into a room with one patient about this big, laying there on a bed, hooked up to a big machine with tubes and wires. You know how they do. And Carol and I put our arms around each other and we wept. We prayed. I wanted to do something to help this little baby live. And then he says, I got the shock of my life, because there in the corner of the machine was the rotary wheel. And I rubbed my eyes, and underneath it there was a little plaque, and it said, this machine was donated by the Rotarians of the Rotary Club of Orange. My club, he said. My mind raced back 3 years earlier when the president of the club stood up and said the children's wing needs a new machine. It's not going to be cheap. It's going to cost $1 million. But we are Rotarians, and I think we can do it. So he said, I thought I should set an example because I'm a past district governor. I've been in Rotary 30 years, and so I wrote a check. Because you know, Rick, Rotary's always asking for a little of our money. Then he said, I sold beer and hot dogs at the club fundraiser at the county fair. Because you know, Rick, Rotary's always asking for a little of our time. And I forgot all about it. I've been in Rotary 30 years. How many projects? How many checks? How many hot dogs? 30 years. I forgot all about it until last Sunday, when that machine was keeping my first grandchild alive. And he began to cry. And I began to cry. It's hard to describe what each of us felt. A little time and a little money. And he looked at me and he said, Rick, how did we ever get so lucky to belong to a club that's always asking us to give a little? Because you can't give it away. Sooner or later, one way or another, always and inevitable, it comes back. You can't give it away.